I'm Gavin Patterson, Director of Data at MEF, and what we're going to talk about today is some of the results from the 11th Annual Consumer Survey. It used to be called the Consumer Trust Survey, because today there's a lot of focus on trust and ID and data and other things, but it's evolved over the years. It's not just about trust anymore. It's a sort of huge piece of consumer research. So this is everything that we include within MEF data. There's various legs that we have to the stool. We look at mobile landscape, which is basically mobile market information. We do this for, I think, 218 countries now worldwide. We get data from 170 regulators, and this is looking at everything from connections, SIM connections, humans and machines, unique users, devices, network technology, MNOs, sunrises, sunsets, market share, parent-child, relationships. Then we look at the messaging industry as well, which is business messaging. We track all the sort of major channels, so SMS, WhatsApp, RCS, looking at reach, traffic, and spend. And then we have the consumers. This is the biggest piece of research that we do within MEF. It's been running now for 11 years. And the latest survey, the one we'll be looking at today, has literally just closed. So the 15 markets on the left here that you see, this is what we did last year. It represents, or they represent 55% of the global population. 60% of active mobile users and about 65% of connected users with smartphones, access to data. This year we added Turkey and Poland, so we're now up to 17 markets. And it looks at everything you see here: trust, smartphones, behaviours, perceptions of control. You can read the list. We're not going to go through all of this in 20 minutes. There's over 100 questions I think we look at within the consumer survey, thousands of answer variables, but we are going to go on a bit of a whirlwind tour. So the 11th Annual Trust Study, the report that goes with all this data, or the report that goes with all the trust data, will be released soon, and it looks like it's a little bit of a turning point. So the three previous reports that we had all contained quite a lot of negative sentiment. In 2022, you can see everything here, but it was basically a lack of positivity, exacerbated by concerns over controls and security. In 2023, users still felt concerns were not being addressed and tended to manage risk by abstaining from data sharing. And then last year, we saw increased awareness. It doesn't necessarily improve trust. You also need greater confidence in the controls and the safeguards. So without prejudging the current report, which I haven't seen, but it looks like 2025 has seen a marked uplift in sentiment. So we'll start with trust, then look at some of the other main issues of today, ID and data, anti-fraud, and customer experience. So we build trust from these three components. As I said, there's hundreds of questions in the report, but these are the three benchmarks that we use to measure trust. Awareness: when I share my personal data, I'm aware of how it may be used. Control: when I share my personal data, I remain in control of it. And safeguards: I believe there are sufficient safeguards to keep my data out of the hands of fraudsters. So we've seen a significant upward shift in the trust index now for the first time since 2023, but really the first big significant shift. So 5 points from last year. And the higher trust index indicates increased engagement, more activity, greater frequency of usage, better opportunities to monetize. And this increase in trust was driven by all three components that we track. The increased awareness of how data is used, up 5%. Improved perceptions of control, also at 5%. And the greater confidence and safeguards at 4%. So things are looking up. And we obviously get different stories from different markets. This is the average 5-point rise in trust across all markets. But we've seen significant uplift, which is 3% or higher, in 11 of the 15 markets that we can compare. Obviously, the 2 new ones this year we can't compare to last year. And all the markets that you see here with significant rise in trust, all at different stages of economic development as well. So you've got India at 17 points to 80% trust, 80%, that's enormous. Mexico 14 points higher to 73%, maybe sort of correcting what happened last year. There was a downturn in 2024. Japan, Italy, USA, all the way back to Egypt. Going up. In fact, the highest levels of trust that you see here are all seen in the emerging and developing economies. So the trust index line, you can see going across, 60%, level with the USA here, and every country above that line is emerging or developing. The only 3 emerging economies that aren't there are at the end, Brazil, which fell 3 points to just below the line, Poland and Turkey, which arguably shouldn't be included in the category anyway, but we've taken the IMF classifications, so they are included. Every other country below this line is advanced or developed. You've got Japan, USA, Canada, all the European countries. So this is what trust looks like when we split up the developed and the developing worlds. 2 very different stories. Trust is significantly higher in emerging and developing economies, an average of 66%, versus 52% that you see in the more advanced. Now this could be because there's more visibility of issues in the developed world, more reporting, more coverage of harmful attacks, or greater experience of harm because more users there are being targeted more often by bad actors. At the same time, though, the improvement in sentiment is strongest in the advanced and developed economies. Up 5 points this year versus 2 points in the emerging and developing. So although overall trust is lower, the advanced and developing economies are seen to be doing more to address the shortfalls. And the same trend is seen across all 3 components. So emerging and developing economies are all ahead, but the gap between the 2 is now narrowing. Awareness of how personal data may be used, the difference now 15 points, still huge, but better than about 20 points in 2023, and went up 5 points in the developed economies this year versus 3% for emerging. Safeguards to keep data out of the hands of fraudsters, no change, still 14-point difference, but reducing an almost 20-point gap last year. And again, a 6-point improvement this year. Control over personal data also narrowing. The difference is now 11 points, but again, up 6 points in the developed economies this year. So we see a better overall perception of risk in the developing world, but greater improvements to minimise risk in the developed. And what users are actually doing to feel in control, to have that sense of ownership. So what allows you to feel in control? You can see here that more consumers are now taking proactive steps when it comes to sharing their personal data, how much of it they share, or whether they share at all. So trust, central to what we're looking at today, is obviously a major driver. If they don't trust you, they're not coming in. A 5-point increase in users now saying they'll only use services they perceive to be trustworthy. The first time we've seen the majority say this. Smaller increases for sharing as little as possible, not accepting cookies, supplying all your account details, and deleting accounts no longer used, which can still be hacked. But then we come to the last 2. Again, significant changes, a 5-point increase in people who now actually pay attention to the T's and C's. Right? So 36% of users now could potentially walk away because they don't like privacy policies. And another 5-point increase in tools, like digital wallets, used to protect or mask personal data from harm. And these are the main experiences of data harm. like far and above everything else, spam on text, messaging, and voice. More than half of everybody surveyed has experience of both of these, with spam messaging up 11 points, more than half, and nuisance calls up 7 points. Next, after that, we have phishing and spoofing, text message again, and email. Both of these also boast some of the highest growth since 2020. Fraudulent text up 16%, experience of fraudulent text, and emails up 11%. Basically both cheap and easy means of targeting people. Use of Trojans is actually down. We all know you don't click the link anymore. And even experience of large data breaches, which we still hear about, down 2%, possibly because of better safeguarding. So although users are seeing more spam and fraudulent attacks, they also feel better placed to manage these threats. And all the measures you can see here have seen significant increases in positivity over the past year. Most people have seen improvements in options to keep their personal data private, up 5%, safety from malware, viruses and ransomware, up 5%, managing spam, up 7%, security from fraud, up 6%. And this is different, this is across as well, all different industry types. So net trust scores for the different industries, for each sector, are increasing year on year. So we're doing something right, which is good. And this year we've seen a significant uplift for all sectors, at least 3 points. Government, banks, M&Os, and the big tech companies seeing the highest uplift. However, sentiment towards new technology in general sort of remains mixed. So not surprisingly, the tech developments with a clear link to convenience are best received. And although there has been an increase in positive sentiment towards key technology developments since last year, facial recognition saw the most significant change, and it's the only one here actually viewed as a positive development by 63% of users. Digital wallets and M&I are getting there, 48%, but sentiment towards AI and chatbots is still overwhelmingly neutral. Surprising maybe for chatbots, because the industry or the messaging industry, that's certainly the direction we're travelling in. And AI comes up again as an area that many users believe is imperative when it comes to ensuring trust, and that's regulation. So more consumers than ever now believe in the importance of regulation, and across all areas. Top of the mind, all above 70%, you have the harmful content, misleading ads, monitoring age-restricted content. So harmful content, some of this is illegal, but we wanted to make sure it isn't available, and some is just harmful, promotion of eating disorders, whatever it may be. Misleading ads will enforce buyer protection or prevent deception. Age-restricted, making sure that content is suitable to the age or the stage appropriate to individuals. But AI has seen the greatest increase in terms of appetite for regulation, up 9 points. And specifically, I guess, there are suspicions where AI companies reject the need for regulation or want to write their own regulations. And big tech is at the bottom here, both in terms of the importance for regulation and changes since last year. Which brings us nicely onto this. So the belief that free speech, whatever that may be, is possible on social media is just about gaining more ground than trust in the actual content. So 66% of users believe free speech is possible on Facebook. Great, it's a rise of 6% on last year, and despite doing away with fact checkers, still a 5-point rise in users who trust the content they read on Facebook. So we've got the F, and what about the X? So, see here what we have for Facebook. Hands up if you think more people believe free speech is now possible on X than on Facebook. Okay. So it is less. They were tied last year on 60%, and despite all the efforts of Mr. Musk, we've got just a 4-point rise in those who believe free speech is possible on X. So with Facebook now overtaking X in terms of platform with belief in free speech. Trusting content. So where do we think that is? Do we think more or less people trust content on X as opposed to Facebook? Less. More. Less. Equal. Equal. Yeah, it's now the same. So both at 49%. But again, there's a lower rise in trust for content on X. So in the last year, Facebook has overtaken X in terms of being a platform for free speech, being seen as a platform for free speech, and Cortex in terms of trust in the content on there. So just for fun, here's some other numbers on X. So of the 14 markets with comparable results in 2024, only 5 had the majority of users that actually trust the content. India, 78%. So remember, India had an overall trust score of 80%, very trusting population. Indonesia, 64%, Egypt, Mexico, South Africa. Only 4 saw a downturn in trust at the end. Yeah. Spain, Indonesia, UK, and maybe not surprisingly, Brazil. And 5 markets at the other end, above average increases in trust: Japan, India, Italy, USA, and Mexico. So apart from posting on social media sites, what also people doing on mobile? So we tracked, I think, 18, 19 different activities, and this is a selection of some of the main ones, showing that what we do largely remains fueled by entertainment. Right, but payments is the fastest growing area we've seen, an upward trend in all forms of mobile activity since 2020. Some jockeying for position. Gaming has dropped from, I think, number 1 in 2020 to 3rd now, behind downloading, listening to music, and top their social media. Video steady in 4th. The largest increase are all for payments, like P2P payments, sending money to friends and family, is up 22%. Online shopping up 20%. Paying for food deliveries and takeaways up 16%. Using digital wallets and cafes and bars up 15%. These showing the greatest rise in what people are doing. So otherwise, you can see during COVID, sort of at the beginning of the period here, and coming out of COVID, 2 big swings. You've got the sort of purpley, pinky line, which was online shopping, going up obviously quite a lot during COVID and continuing. And secondly, sort of work-related activities at the bottom, the brown, with a big fall as we emerged from lockdown. But again, it's steadily risen, maybe indicating how many people are now taking advantage of remote working. So finally, on our whirlwind tour, 50 seconds left. In terms of mobile usage, WhatsApp, slowly widening the gap at the top. On average, WhatsApp is now the most preferred means of communication with friends and family across all 17 countries, surveyed by MEF last year. And it's slowly widening the gap as well on second place voice, from 4 points in 2021 up to about 10 points this year. Texting, SMS, has now dropped to 5th place from joint 3rd 4 years ago. And then to complete the top 5, I think we've got Instagram and Facebook. Country by country. So rich messaging rules in 15 of the 17 countries that we're now looking at. WhatsApp is the most preferred means of communications with friends and family in 11 of the countries. In green, you can see everything there. Europe, Germany, Italy, Spain, the UK. In the Americas, got Brazil and Mexico, Asia-Pac, India and Indonesia, all the markets in the MEA, Turkey, Egypt and South Africa. Line was top in Japan, WeChat in China, Facebook Messenger in Poland, and the USA, which has previously been a bastion for 160-character texting, now sees a three-way tie, with another rich channel here coming level, Messenger. Meanwhile, we've still got SMS in Canada and France. And to end on a high, we all still like to talk on the phone, at least with friends and family. So voice-based phone calls are in the top 3 for every country here, for every country apart from France, so almost every country. And with that, I think our tour is done. So thank you very much.